Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're gathered today on the 30th of the fifth month on our Creator's calendars. We comprehend it, which happens to line up with the 9th of August, 2025. And we are, what is it, 28 days into the counting of the new oil and new wood for those keeping track for how it's reckoned on the calendar as we comprehend it. And just to be clear, there's nothing novel about the calendar. I know there are very many opinions about intercalation and when you should start it, and if there's imaginary days that don't exist between it that you're supposed to not add but add anyways. Um, we've already shared a few times the reason why we should not intercalate at all. It plainly tells you not to in the book of Yobelim and in the book of First Enoch or Hanok. On top of those two witnesses that plainly, directly tell you not to do such a thing, you don't add between them, you don't add a day or a week or anything. Um, there's the witness in the scrolls themselves. Every single day of the calendar is explicitly pointed out. Every feast day is enumerated and never changes. And what Kohen is going to be serving at what time for a 294-year period is entirely covered. The moon cycles throughout that entire time. Everything is written, so it's not guessed. It's literally a pattern that you can just go, oh, well, this is where we are, right? And that's what we've been trying to do with it. But when we say that that's the count, it's because as we comprehend the calendar from the way it's been since we started keeping track in 2016, the way Brother Jerry Morris, our late brother who gave us the Zadok priestly order here, he started keeping this calendar first. Anyone else in the world I know of, he started keeping it in 2013. And when he did, there was a full moon on the first day of the year, which is the pattern that this particular PDF covers. 22 in the order and 10 in the order mark every third year, which was the oath or the sign that would show when the full moon is in the beginning of the year. It doesn't happen every year, but only when number 22 or number 10 was serving that first week, right? And that's what this actually covers. There's an entire scroll that only numbers 22 and 10, 22 and 10, and it tells you exactly where they are. It would be 22 in the fifth week of the third year of the fifth week, 10 in the sixth year of the fifth week, 22 in the second year of the sixth week, and so on and so forth. It went like that throughout the whole 294-year period. Our brother didn't get how that was related to anything that made any sense at all. So he actually got a notepad and a pen and just started writing it down. He wrote down these numbers all the way through till he had this pattern out. And then he put it on the PDF so it was easier for people to see. But this is the main proof that you can't intercalate because you literally have six different Yobelim periods where you go over 294 years, where it's 364 days, and then you go again 364, 364, 364. You can't, there's no missing a day, there's no skipping days. Otherwise, this would throw the pattern off. There has been a few videos our brother Jerry Morris had made some where he was showing back in 2015 how the patterns in the calendar were able to be seen in creation. And then there was another brother, I don't remember his name, but he also put out a video, I believe it was later on, where he was showing the same things, but he went into detail to show multiple years from it was around 2019 on, where you can see that the pattern in the calendar, as it's actually written, was lining up with what you can see in creation. And when you stick to that pattern, that's the calendar that we're on. And that's what I say as we comprehend it. Some people are a week behind us, some people are a week ahead, some people shift doing other things, but the calendar that actually follows that pattern that you can see in the skies that fits what is written is what we're trying to stick to. The only issue we have, and I'm trying to be perfectly clear to everybody, since 2019, what they say on the internet is the full moon does not line up with what it says on the calendar is supposed to be the full moon. And then you have to debate whether or not you can see it full at what time, because there's usually a 3-day period where it shifts. We're still keeping an eye on it. I live in Washington State currently, where I don't have the best ability to see the luminaries at all throughout the year. So it is something that we are in the process of continuing to learn, and that's why we should all be humble. But the one thing that we can absolutely prove is that you don't add any days in between. You don't add a week between. You don't intercalate at all because the text directly tells you not to, and the scrolls make no room for it. There is no provision for it at all unless you wait 294 years. But I digress here. We're going to be continuing with our reading of Wayikra or Leviticus, Leviticus here. We're currently on chapter 12. I'm hoping that we can get through a few of these, and you'll see that these are added bonds that were meant to train the children in righteousness. It was not something that was established before, it was given after the golden calf incident, and it was removed when our Mashiach came. It was part of those dogmas that were witnessed against them that they were going to be punished for not doing. The whole point of it, as I'm hoping that we'll be able to clearly see, was to teach them with a physical thing a spiritual implication. In okay? So they physically, literally had to do these things at that time as a chastisement, a punishment for their idolatry. That was what was removed with our Mashiach coming and dying. The added bonds that were because of the golden calf incident. If none of that makes sense to you, please go back to the scripture studies we've just been doing from the book of Exodus. We we read them in chronological order so that you can see how the events actually play out. What you do when you read the Bible is you're reading a jumbled mess it's not historically accurate. The order of events have been tampered with to make you think that, and this is done in Josephus as well. If you read the account in Josephus, one glaring thing that is missing is any mention of the idolatry or the punishment that came upon them because of it. Both the incident of burning the calf and grinding it up and having the sons of Louis go through and kill the people, and with the added bonds with the building of the tabernacle being a consequence of their idolatry and not the original intent. But either way, this is chapter 12, and it's on the purification of a woman after childbirth, her offerings for herself or for her purifying. And this was first established in the beginning of creation with the creation of Adam on the sixth day, and then 33 days after, or 40 days after his creation, he was brought into Eden on the 14th day of the second month, or second Passover, if you will. But Hua, being made the second week on the sixth day later, her time was double, and she came in on the 80th day. That is the first time that this was fulfilled in history. And because these were appointed and established by the Almighty, it is echoed through eternity with the birth of every son or daughter by those partaking of the truth. So, ob willing, you can see that's why this is established. This is in Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, and you shall say to them, Whatsoever woman shall have conceived and born a male child shall be unclean 7 days. She shall be unclean according to the days of separation for her monthly courses. And on the 8th day she shall circumcise the flesh of his foreskin. Now, we've talked about that before, but in the parable, in foretelling purposes, that 8th day circumcision is that circumcision that we're all going to be partaking of after the millennial reign, after Satan is released again, and then we are all like the messengers and there's no more death. That is the fullness of this eighth day circumcision that we're all going to be partaking of, right? That's why you can have men that are of the covenant that have not literally had their foreskins cut on the eighth day and still be accepted by the Almighty. Abraham was a type beforehand. You see the children in the wilderness that were not circumcised were accepted by him. All the men of battle that were circumcised died, but the ones who weren't were brought into the land, and Yahushua, the son of Nun, circumcised them at Gilgal. So there's pictures here for our benefit, okay? But it was to teach us this overarching theme that while the circumcision is an important thing, it's an eternal thing. How it's applied and when and why have changed over time in the very same ways as the laws for divorce and marriage or the laws for the festivals, the way they're kept, just like the dietary laws have changed over time. And if anyone wants to see for yourself, look at what Adam and Hua were first given in the garden. Then look what was given as permission for man after the flood. It is, and then look what was given to the children specifically at Mount Sinai. These are different every time. It is not the same, right? Either way. And I'm not an advocate for not eating clean. I absolutely think that the dietary instructions are required for believers. If you're not a believer, it doesn't apply to you. You're not going to be doing what he said anyways. You have more problems than that. And you have to look, the sons of Noach that were not in covenant with our Maker, they have instructions. They were told to follow those, and none of it has to do with what they eat, other than you don't eat meat with the blood, right? But either way, it says, and for the 33 days she shall continue in her unclean blood. She shall touch nothing set apart, and shall not enter the sanctuary until the days of her purification be fulfilled. Which was why Hua or Adam did not go into the Garden of Eden until after the days of his purification. And that's the same thing for Hua, but it was twice that. 33 or 40 days for a man and 80 for a woman. But if she should have borne a female child, then she shall be unclean twice 7 days, according to the time of her monthly courses, and for 66 days shall she remain in her unclean blood. And when the days of her purification shall have been fulfilled, for a son or a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of a year old, without blemish, for a whole burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering to the door of the tabernacle of witness, to the Kohen. And he shall present it before Yahuah, and the Kohen shall make atonement for her, and shall purge her from the fountain of her blood. This is the law of her who bears a male or a female. And if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a whole burnt offering, and one for a sin offering. And the Kohen shall make atonement for her, and she shall be purified. And we know that that was the condition that Miriam was in, because she offered the 2 turtle doves or the 2 birds rather than a lamb. So if you remember, she was of the line of Dawid. She was in the royal line. The exalted branch had been, or the exalted tree had been humbled at the time of the Babylonian captivity. Zadik Yahu's sons were killed, his eyes were put out, he died in Babylon, but his daughter went over to Ireland to marry the son of Zerah there from Yahudah to continue the line of Dawid through the female line over the sons of Yisrael over there at that time. To keep his word that there would always be the seed of David over the children of Israel, right? But at that time, the sons of David in captivity in the land were humbled, the line of Pharez, if you will. And when they came back from captivity, they were only governors. By the time our Mashiach came, they were not even in any position of established authority, but they were peasants, and she was so poor they couldn't even afford a lamb at his purification. But because of that humility, she was exalted with the giving of the birth of the male child. I want you to see that in her humility, in her humble state, she was exalted and lifted up, and that was also what she was foretelling at when she was inspired by the Ruach in the renewed covenant there. But we'll go ahead and continue. This next one, it's laws whereby the Kohen is guided to discern leprosy. Now, this might seem archaic in how it doesn't apply to men today, but if you have issues with things, then how you're supposed to do that. It doesn't mention it here, but when you read Josephus, the Kohen was judge of this, but it doesn't mention that you're supposed to be repenting in between the time that you are seen and the time you come back. You're fasting, you're praying, you're repenting, you're making a remedy for whatever caused the problem because it's a condition brought on by sin. And that's a key that we keep overlooking. There is no ailment in your life today. There is no suffering that you have that is not caused by something that you've deserved or for righteousness' sake alone. If you are suffering for righteousness' sake, you're going to know that you're not cognizant of being offensive to the Almighty, that you've not sinned against anything that you know He wills you to do. Job is a clear example of this. Chokmah Shalomo mentions those tried by gold. They are not ignorant. They are aware. It just like we mentioned beforehand, the fear of Yahuah is doing his commandments, and that brings comprehension. The one doing things, the one meditating on his word, will have comprehension in all things he says, because you apply it. And when, as Kefa explains, when Yahushua, who knows the minds of all men, sees one that's prepared for him, he makes himself known to them. It isn't something special for any individual. It is the power of our Creator in you. Him doing the work, making wisdom in the inner heart of man, as it's mentioned. But either way, right here, this is a physical thing to teach a spiritual application. When we are unclean, it is the Kohen who will judge this alone. It is our point and purpose to repent in the times between, and you'll see that how you're cleansed and how you become declared clean are all foretelling when he came, the third and seventh day kind of thing. Okay? So it's pretty easy to see these parables after the fact. Hindsight's 2020, but that's the point. We are in these times so that we can see these things clearly for our edification. His Ruach is with us. That's the fact since he came and died. But right here it says, in the Kohen, sorry, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon, saying, if any man should have in the skin of his flesh a bright, clear spot, and there should be in the skin of his flesh a plague of leprosy, and he shall be brought to Aharon the Kohen, or to one of his sons the Kohanim. And the Kohen shall view the spot in the skin of his flesh, and the hair in the spot be changed white, and the appearance of the spot be below the skin of the flesh. It is a plague of leprosy, and the Kohen shall look upon it and pronounce him unclean. And if the spot be clear and white in the skin of his flesh, yet the appearance of it be not deep below the skin, and its hair have not changed, white hair, but it is dark, then the Kohen shall separate the spot 7 days. It says him that has in italics there or in a bracket because it makes sense in context. The Greek often it doesn't have filler words like we do in English because it's supplied in the part of the language is it's an implied thing or it's the way it's built into it. We would translate it with these words in English because that's how you would read it that way. To put it with italics, really, it isn't there literally in the sense that these words don't exist, him that has, but they're required that makes sense for context. I hope that helps. I don't like these things. I don't like having added words at all if we can help it. Tragically, you cannot read or do a direct translation into English without that sometimes because you have to have is of he these filler things that are implied in the other languages and how they're used and they're not in English. So, and the Kohen shall look on the spot the seventh day, and behold, if the spot remains before him, the spot has not spread in the skin, then the Kohen shall separate him the second time 7 days. And the Kohen shall look upon him the second time on the seventh day, and behold, the spot be dark, and the spot have not spread in the skin, then the Kohen shall pronounce him clean, for it is a mark. And the man shall wash his garments and be clean. But if the bright spot should have changed and spread in the skin, after the Kohen has seen him for the purpose of purifying him, then shall he appear the second time to the Kohen. And the Kohen shall look upon him, and behold, if the mark have spread in the skin, then the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean, it is a leprosy. And if a man have a plague of leprosy, then he shall come to the Kohen, and the Kohen shall look, and behold, if it is a white spot in the skin, and it has changed the hair to white, and some of the sound part of the quick flesh in the sore, it is a leprosy waxing old in the skin of the flesh. And the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean, and shall separate him because he is unclean. And if the leprosy should have come out very evidently in the skin, and the leprosy should cover all the skin of the patient from head to the feet, wheresoever the Kohen shall look, then the Kohen shall look, and behold, the leprosy has covered all the skin of the flesh, and the Kohen shall pronounce him clean of the plague, because it has changed all to white. It is clean. But on whatsoever day the quick flesh shall appear on him, he shall be pronounced unclean. And the Kohen shall look upon the sound flesh, and the sound flesh shall prove him to be unclean, for it is unclean, it is a leprosy. Meaning, if he grows presumably, if he has patches of skin that where the normal colors start to appear again, he still has this problem. It's just the opposite way now. And again, this, I don't know if you'll find anything related to this in a modern medical disease. It could be related to certain rashes or skin diseases or whatever. But the thing that you have to keep in mind was he was teaching, this was added bonds because of transgression. To teach them not to be unclean in their practices, he showed them not to be unclean in their body. And the one correlated to the other exactly. We don't see it as clearly when we read through the Masoretic text, but when you look through other things in contemporary writings, like the letter of Orestes, when the ambassador went to the high Kohen, I think his name was Eli, and inquired of him, you can see very clearly that they comprehended there was a spiritual aspect that was teaching in all of these instructions a moral character. All of the dietary instructions were meant to teach moral instructions, and he clearly identifies that and explains it in the same way these things were meant to teach you, and that was the whole purpose of them. The the fact that they were unwilling to be taught and they used the system of sacrifices as a contrivance to continue doing evil willingly, was what he found so offensive that he was going to destroy the Hikkel because they wouldn't stop doing it. It says, "But if the sound flesh be restored and changed white, then shall he come to the Kohen, and the Kohen shall see and behold, the plague is turned white. Then the Kohen shall pronounce the patient clean, he is clean. And if the flesh should have become an ulcer in his skin, and should be healed, and there should be in the place of the ulcer a white sore, or one, or looking white and bright, or fiery, and it shall be seen by the Kohen, then the Kohen shall look and behold, if the appearance be beneath the skin, and its hair has changed to white, then the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean, because it is a leprosy, it has broken out in the ulcer. But if the Kohen look, and behold, there is no white hair on it, and it be not below the skin of the flesh, and it be dark colored, then the Kohen shall separate him 7 days. But if it manifestly spread over the skin, then the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the ulcer. But if the bright spot should remain in its place and not spread, it is a scar of the ulcer, and the Kohen shall pronounce him clean." And notice that some of them have a scar, some of them are completely healed, some of them completely change over to the other color before being considered clean. Everyone in all of these different instances would be getting according to what they deserve. There's different circumstances that he's covering for different purposes. I'm hoping you can see that. It says, "And if the flesh be in his skin, fiery inflammation, and there should be in his skin the part which is healed of the inflammation, bright, clear, and white, suffused with red or very white, then the Kohen shall look upon him, and behold, the hair being white is changed to a bright color, and its appearance is lower than the skin. It is a leprosy, and it has broken out in the inflammation, and the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. But if the Kohen should look and behold, and there is not in the bright spot any white hair, and it should not be lower than the skin, and it should be dark, then the Kohen shall separate him 7 days. And the Kohen shall look upon him on the 7th day, and if the spot be much spread in the skin, then the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the ulcer. But if the bright spot remain stationary, and be not spread in the skin, but should be dark, it is a scar of inflammation. And the Kohen shall pronounce him clean, for it is the mark of the inflammation. And if a man or a woman have in them a plague of leprosy in the head or the beard, then the Kohen shall look on the plague, and behold, the appearance of it be beneath the skin, and in it there be thin yellowish hair. Then the Kohen shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scruff. It is a leprosy of the head, or a leprosy of the beard. And if the Kohen should see the plague of the scruff, and behold, the appearance of it be not beneath the skin, and there is no yellowish hair in it, then the Kohen shall set apart him that has the plague of the scruff 7 days. And the Kohen shall look at the plague on the 7th day, and behold, if the scruff be not spread, and there be no yellowish hair on it, and the appearance of the scruff is not hollow under the skin, then the skin shall be shaven, but the scruff shall not be shaven, and the Kohen shall set aside the person having the scruff the second time for 7 days. And the Kohen shall see the scruff on the seventh day, and behold, the scruff is not spread in the skin after the man's being shaved, and the appearance of the scruff is not hollow beneath the skin. Then the Kohen shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his garments and be clean. But if the scruff be indeed spread in the skin after he has been purified, then the Kohen shall look, and behold, if the scruff be spread in the skin, the Kohen shall not examine concerning the yellow hair, for he is unclean. But if the scruff remain below in its place, and a dark hair should have arisen in it, the scruff is healed, he is clean, and the Kohen shall pronounce him clean. And if a man or a woman should have in the skin of their flesh spots of a bright whiteness, then the Kohen shall look, and behold, their bright spots of bright whiteness in the skin of their flesh. It is a tedder. It burst forth in the skin of his flesh. He is clean. And if anyone's head should lose the hair, he is bald. He is clean. Leviticus 13:40 here. I'd had a meme once upon a time where I'd seen that with the Mr. Clean figure, his image on that, and then it had this verse underneath it. If any man loses the hair of his head, he is bald, he is clean, right? And if his head should lose the hair in front, he is forehead bald, he is clean. This is just to say that it doesn't make a man unclean to have thinning or lose his hair. And if there should be in his baldness of head or his baldness of forehead a white or fiery plague, it is leprosy in the baldness of head or baldness of forehead. And the Kohen shall look upon him, and behold, if the appearance of the plague be white or inflamed in his baldness of head or baldness in front, as the appearance of leprosy in the skin of his flesh, he is a leprous man. The Kohen shall surely pronounce him unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, let his garments be ungirt, and his head uncovered, and let him have a covering put upon his mouth, and he shall be called unclean. All the days in which the plague shall be upon him, being unclean, he shall be unclean. He shall dwell apart. His place of sojourn shall be without the camp. And if a garment have in it the plague of leprosy, a garment of wool, or a garment of flax, I think we'd call that mold, right? Either in the warp or in the woof, or in the linen, or in the woolen threads, or in the skin, or in a skin rather, or in any workmanship of skin, and the plague be greenish or reddish in the skin, or in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in any utensil of skin, it is a plague of leprosy. He shall show it to the Kohen. And the Kohen shall look upon the plague, and the Kohen shall set apart that which has the plague 7 days. And the Kohen shall look upon the plague on the seventh day, and if the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in the skin, in whatsoever things skins may be used in their workmanship, the plague is a confirmed leprosy, it is unclean. He shall burn the garment the seventh day. Remember, when he comes, certain things are going to get burned. Everything that's unclean is going to get burned in his presence. These are the things that are foretold in parables here. I'm hoping you guys can see that. And I was talking about the remedy mentioned in Yahuah or the writings of Josephus, because during this time where we are supposed to fast, pray, repent for cleansing, and then when we do, we have our garments washed instead of the other way around, burned, right? But he shall burn either the wolf or the wolf, garments, or in flaxen, or in any utensil of skin in which there may be the plague. Because it is a confirmed leprosy, it shall be burnt with fire. And if the Kohen should see, and the plague be not spread in the garments, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in any utensil of skin, then the Kohen shall give directions, and shall wash, and the one shall wash that which there may be, or sorry, and one shall wash that on which there may have been the plague, and the Kohen shall set it aside a second time for 7 days. And the Kohen shall look upon it after the plague has been washed, and if this, even the plague, has not changed its appearance, and the plague does not spread, it is not, or it is unclean, it shall be burnt with fire. It is fixed in the garment, in the warp, or in the woof. And if the Kohen should look, and the spot be dark after it has been washed, he shall tear it off from the garment, either from the warp, or from the woof, or from the skin. And if it should still appear in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in any article of skin, it is a leprosy bursting forth, that wherein is the plague shall be burnt with fire. And the garment, or the warp, or the woof, or any article of skin which shall be washed, and the plague depart from it, shall also be washed again, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy, of a woolen or linen garment, either in the warp or woof, or any leather article, to pronounce it clean or unclean. All right. And then this one is the rites and cleansings for the leper here. I, just give me one moment. All right, this is chapter 14, and we're continuing with the theme for the leprosy, but this is on the rites and offerings in cleansing of the leper, the signs of leprosy in a house, and the cleansing of that house. It says, And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, This is the law of the leper. In whatsoever day he shall have been cleansed, then shall he be brought to the Kohen. And the Kohen shall come forth out of the camp, and the Kohen shall look, and behold, the plague of the leprosy is removed from the leper. And this is what Yahushua said, but go show yourself to the Kohen after they had been cleansed, right? And the Kohen shall give directions, and they shall take for him that is cleansed 2 clean live birds, and cedar wood, and spun scarlet, and hyssop. And the Kohen shall give direction, and they shall kill one bird over an earthen vessel, over running water. And as for the living bird, he shall take it, and the cedar wood, and the spun scarlet, and the hyssop, and he shall dip them in the living bird into the blood of the bird that was slain over the running water. And he shall sprinkle 7 times upon him that was cleansed of of his leprosy, and he shall be clean. And he shall let go the living bird into the field. And the man that has been cleansed shall wash his garments, and shall shave off all his hair, and shall wash himself in water, and shall be clean. Now, you know the 2 men that died with Yahushua, one was taken to paradise with him the same day, and one was forsaken because he refused to acknowledge the truth and reviled and blasphemed even when he was in the same situation. Those 2 men were equated to the offering of the 2 birds here, how one was killed and one was released. And you can see that was directly related to the man who actually was healed of the leprosy. So the one who was unclean through this week and then made clean would have the offering of the bird being let loose here as a symbol of what part he was partaking of, if you can see that. He was a believer that repented. And it says, And the man that has been cleansed shall wash his garments, and shall shave off all his hair, and shall wash himself in water, and shall be clean. And after that he shall go into the camp, and shall remain out of his house 7 days. This is the only instance I know of, other than when a man has a Nazirite vow that he's accomplishing, where it's permissible to shave. It's actually commanded to shave your beard. Otherwise, it's a shameful thing, and it's actually against Scripture to do so. Um, for the commandments of men in the apostolic constitutions, it makes it very clear. We're made in the image of our Maker, and if He didn't intend you to have a beard, you wouldn't. The only way it's permissible to pluck the hairs of a beard is if you're a woman. And that's directly written. I'm just paraphrasing it.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry? Not for me? All right, never mind.
No, that's okay.
All right. And it says, and it came to pass on the seventh day, he shall shave off all the hair of his head, or all of his head and his beard and his eyebrows, even all his hair shall he shave, and he shall wash his garments and wash his body with water and shall be clean. And on the eighth day he shall take 2 lambs without spot of a year old, and one ewe lamb, it says lamp here, but I think that's lamb, without spot of a year old, and 3/10 of fine flour for a sacrifice kneaded with oil, and 1 small cup of oil. And the Kohen that cleanses shall present the man under purification, and these before Yahuah at the door of the tabernacle of witness. And the Kohen shall take 1 lamb, and offer him for a trespass offering, and the cup of oil, and set them apart for a special offering before Yahuah. And they shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the whole burnt offerings, and the sin offerings in the set apart places. For it is a sin offering, as the trespass offering. It belongs to the Kohen, it is most set apart. And the Kohen shall take of the blood of the trespass offering, and the Kohen shall put it on the tip of the right ear of the person under cleansing, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the great toe of his right foot. The same pattern that they did with Aharon and his children when they were being anointed for the position as Kohen, right? And the Kohen shall take of the cup of oil and shall pour it upon his own left hand, and he shall dip with the finger of his right hand some of the oil that is in his left hand, and he shall sprinkle with his finger 7 times before Yahuah. And the remaining oil that is in his hand, the Kohen shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is under cleansing, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the great toe of his right foot, and on the place of the blood of the trespass offering. So the oil follows the blood. And the remaining oil that is on the hand of the Kohen shall put on the head of the cleansed, and the Kohen shall make atonement for him before Yahuah. And the Kohen shall sacrifice a sin offering, and the Kohen shall make atonement for the person under purification from his sin, and afterwards the Kohen shall slay the whole burnt offering. And the Kohen shall offer the whole burnt offering, and the sacrifice upon the altar before Yahuah, and the Kohen shall make atonement for him, and he shall be cleansed. And if he should be poor, and cannot afford so much, he shall take 1 lamb for his transgression for a separate offering, so as to make propitiation for him, and a 10th deal of fine flour mingled with oil for a sacrifice, and 1 cup of oil. And 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, as he can afford, and the one shall be for a sin offering, and the other for a whole burnt offering. And he shall bring them on the 8th day to purify him to the Kohen, to the door of the tabernacle of witness before Yahuah. And the Kohen shall take the lamb of the trespass offering and the cup of oil, and place them for a set offering before Yahuah. And he shall slay the lamb of the trespass offering, and the Kohen shall take of the blood of the trespass offering, and put it on the tip of the right ear of him that is under purification, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the great toe of his right foot. And the Kohen shall pour the oil on his own left hand, and the Kohen shall sprinkle with the finger of his right hand some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before Yahuwah. And the Kohen shall put of the oil that is on his hand on the tip of the right ear of him that is under purification, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the great toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the trespass offering. And that which is left of the oil which is on the hand of the Kohen he shall put on the head of him that is purged, and the Kohen shall make atonement for him before Yahuwah. And he shall offer one of the turtle doves or one of the young pigeons as he can afford it, the one for a sin offering, the other for a whole burnt offering, with the meat offering, and the Kohen shall make atonement before Yahuwah for him that is under purification. This is the law for him in whom is the plague of leprosy, and who cannot afford the offerings of his purification. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon, saying, Whensoever you shall enter into the land of the Canaanim, which I give you for a possession, and I shall put the plague of leprosy in the houses of in the land of your possession. Okay, notice that this is a conditional thing. Whenever you enter the land of the Canaanim, okay. Then the owner of the house shall come and report to the Kohen, saying, I have seen as it were a plague in the house. And the Kohen shall give orders to remove the furniture of the house before the Kohen comes in to see the plague. And none of the things in the house shall become unclean. And afterwards the Kohen shall go in to examine the house. Now notice, there is no mention of germs or of this stuff spreading and catching on things or doing stuff like that. They're telling you before the Kohen comes, the one in whose judgment is given to be determined, you come take all the stuff out of the house so that if it is going to be condemned, nothing that's in there with it will be condemned as well. Now, obviously, when you're doing that, you're probably going to make sure that nothing has the plague on it too, and you're not going to remove it if it does. But generally, this would be your chance to get that stuff out so that you wouldn't be without it during the time where your house is barred from you, right? Says, and he shall look on the plague, and behold, if the plague is in the walls of the house, greenish or reddish cavities, and the appearance of them beneath the surface of the walls, and the Kohen shall come out of the house to the door of the house, and the Kohen shall separate the house 7 days. And the Kohen shall return on the 7th day, and view the house, and behold, if the plague is spread in the walls of the house, then the Kohen shall give orders, and they shall take away the stones which is the plague, in which the plague is, and shall cast them out of the city into an unclean place. And they shall scrape the house within round about, and shall pour out the dust scraped off outside the city into an unclean place. And they shall take other scraped stones, and put them in the place of the former stones, and they shall take other plaster and plaster the house. Now, you don't see anything like this written anywhere else, anywhere in Scripture, except for in the Shepherd of Hermas, in the parable that he has about the building of the tower. When the master of the house comes and inspects it, and he checks the walls and the things that become plagued or decayed, they remove those ones. Some they scrub or they clean off and they get it so it's of a smaller, diminished size, but useful still within the building. Others they reapply or they replace with new stones. But these are parables for men their deficiencies and whether they repent or they are replaced with others that will do what he wills, right? And if the plague should return again and break out in the house after they have taken away the stones and after the house is scraped and after it has been plastered, then the Kohen shall go in and see if the plague is spread in the house. It is a confirmed leprosy in the house. It is unclean. And they shall take down the house and its timbers and its stones, and they shall carry out all the mortar without the city into an unclean place. And he that goes into the house at any time during its separation shall be unclean until evening. And he that sleeps in the house shall wash his garments and be unclean until evening. And he that eats in the house shall wash his garments and be unclean until evening. And if the Kohen, now, see what that says. Now imagine if you're dwelling with people, or if that house is corrupted by the morals of those who live in it. You can't eat or sleep in there without being unclean spiritually. These are things that he's trying to teach us. If you can only, you take what is written here in a literal sense, you see what is written elsewhere about explaining these things in a spiritual sense, what the house represents, what the cleaning is, what getting right, and how these things apply. And then you look in how the parable speaks in the literal one that was given. That's all you do with literally everything that's there. All the parables throughout Scripture, he's given you the meanings. Quite often, the meaning is in the name, either the name of the place or the name of the person involved. It's the meaning of it that's significant as well. All of the Canaanite nations that they were overcome by the beloved, for example, or by Yahushua, the names are all they're all significant for overcoming different like terror, fear, and other things of that nature, right? But let's continue here. It says, and if the Kohen shall arrive and enter and see, and behold, the plague be not spread at all, or be not at all spread, rather, in the house after the house has been plastered, then the Kohen shall declare the house clean, because the plague is healed. And he shall take to purify the house 2 clean living birds, and cedar wood, and spun scarlet, and hyssop. And he shall slay 1 bird in an earthen vessel over running water. And he shall take the cedar wood, and the spun scarlet, and the hyssop, and the living bird, and shall dip it into the blood of the bird slain over running water. And with them he shall sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall purify the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, and with the living bird, and with the cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the spun scarlet. And he shall let the living bird go out of the city into the field, and shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law concerning every plague of leprosy and scruff, and of the leprosy of a garment, and of a house, and of a sore, and of a clear spot, and of a shining one, and of declaring in that what day it is unclean, and in what day it shall be purged. This is the law of the leprosy. Elsewhere, especially in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it mentions that even if the Kohen, the son of Aharon, is simple and he can't usually make regular judgments, he's the one that's required to judge whether there is cleanness or uncleanness in any of these things. And so he was to be assisted in that matter, read to, and have him determine the truth based on what is written. But that's the key. We're to go to the one appointed with the authority, and he's going to go by the instructions as given to declare the truth as it's meant to be laid down, based on the evidence of the facts at hand. That's what we all have to do in our lives, and that's what we're supposed to do when we establish assemblies, where the overseer, who is chosen by unanimous consent of the governed, would be in the position of the Kohen in this instance. Although, like I said, these laws for cleanliness do not apply anymore. We would be dealing with moral problems within the body, which is covered in detail in the apostolic constitutions, specifically how, like a physician, an overseer is supposed to care for the wounded and do different things to help heal the body. But I think that's all we'll have for this time. When we continue next, it's going to be going into issues of cleanliness for when a man spills his seed and things of that nature as well. That gets into some other stuff with, especially in some of the more hidden things. One of the, for example, one of the contentions for the book of Yobelim is that it mentions that a man should not lie with his wife on the Sabbath, and people believe that's adding to the text. But if all flesh is supposed to come serve before him on this day and not do their own pleasure, and if the spilling of your seed makes you and anything that touches it unclean until evening, you cannot do that and come serve before him on the same day. That's just an unequivocal fact. When you add in the implication that the Sabbath is a type of the millennial reign, and we're all supposed to be made like messengers where that isn't even a thing anymore, all of it's fitting. Then you have the extra information when you get to like the Dead Sea Scrolls that talks about how at one point Yarushalayim used to be the set apart city where you could not come into it unclean. So you could not lie with your wife within the city, period. Doesn't matter what day of the week it was. So people want to contest that if they want to, but you can find that information in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's not even an issue. They barred dogs and chickens from being within the city because it's set apart. Chickens for a different reason. For dogs they didn't want to eat any bones that might have been from offerings. But either way, ob willing, this was edifying, and we've all learned something, and we're able to see that while these were a correction for a time, they were also meant to teach truths that are applicable even into our lives today. So thank you all for your time. You have a great week ahead, a Shavua Tov. You have a great rest of your Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom, and we will speak to you next time.